Welcome to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio. Now you're tuned into the final of the show, and I'm very, very excited to be here because we still have a lot of interesting conversation left to, obviously talk about, right? So obviously because of that, I'm still very, very excited to be here because right now we're talking about mending your clothes and doing yourself some good. And I know this is not a very common topic to talk about. Obviously, it's something a bit different, but don't worry because that's what Relax Radio is all about, right? We're all about doing different things. We're all about making sure that you get the best of experiences in terms of everything, right? In terms of science, technology, health, lifestyle, self development, self help, science, entertainment, gossip, finance, whatever it is that you want to know. We talk about anything and everything only here on Relax Radio. So make sure you stay tuned because obviously, I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what you're feeling. And I want to know what you think about the things we're talking about as well. So don't forget to do that. Make sure you text me on 078 to share your thoughts, to share your opinions with me, because that is something that I absolutely love to do, right? I want to know what you're thinking. And Relax Radio is always all about you as well. So don't forget to do that because we would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences. Now, also, if you're really interested in some of the content that we talk about, because we talk about anything and everything right here on Relax Radio, don't forget to actually go follow us on our socials, right? Which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That way you can actually go follow us on our socials. You can always stay informed, updated about everything that happens, not just here in the United Kingdom, but in fact all over the world as well. So don't forget to do that because that is going to be amazing for you. You're going to always be informed, especially in a day and age where there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of fake news. It's always important to make sure you're updated, right? And the only way you can do that is actually by tuning into Relax Radio, by following us on our socials, because we give you the best and the most accurate information at all times, okay? And obviously don't forget to go follow us on us. So don't forget to actually download our app either, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That way you can actually make sure you're tuned, and that you can also make sure you can join into the conversation at any time of the day from anywhere in the world at any time that you want. So make sure you do that. Now don't forget to do that. But right now let's actually head into our conversation, right? And our conversation is about mending clothes. It's about making sure that you can actually mend your clothes and have some sort of connection to whatever it is that you're talking about, or whatever it is that you wear, right? So let's talk about this, right? Why do we need to mend clothes, and why is it going to do us some good, right? Now, in today's society, many of us go through our whole lives without ever working with our hands, right? We live, we work, we eat, we buy, we repeat, and we don't really use our hands to sew our clothes or to paint. I mean, sure, we do paint once in a while, but obviously it's not the same as back in the past, right? Because obviously back in the past there was much more time for you to be doing these things. There was much more time for you to for you to sew things, and maybe do some nice needlework and whatnot. But obviously with the way things are moving, because of how fast paced the world it is right now, it's actually very, very hard to it's very, very hard to have time to even breathe, right? You barely have time to breathe. So what would you have time to sew, right? Which is the most common like thought that you would have when you're thinking of this topic that we're talking about, right? Like, why would I mend my clothes? Like, I barely even have time to breathe or look at myself in the mirror, so why should I mend my clothes, right? But it's actually important. Now, I'm not going to tell you why it's important right now, because then you're not gonna you're not gonna want to be a part of this conversation, right? So you're going to find out why it's so important towards the end of this conversation, just to have a little bit of suspense for you, just to have a little bit of excitement for you as well. So make sure you do stay tuned, and you share your thoughts with me and what you yourself feel if you ever mend your clothes, right? If you ever done that, do you have some sort of satisfaction? What is it that you feel? Just do let me know, right? Make sure to text me on 078 to get in touch with me and share your thoughts and what you feel, right? So like I said, we live in this world where we buy everything. We don't really use our hands, because our entire lives are just we live, we work, we eat, we buy, we repeat, right? It's almost like a mantra, and everything is made and delivered at a blistering rate, and from fast food to fast fashion. And although this has in fact made the economy buoyant, it's not necessarily good for our mental health or even for our planet, right? And the truth is, we're actually beginning to see that, right? We're beginning to see why it's not so good for our environment, or why it's not so good for our planet, because we see how much fashion has contributed to pollution in the planet, right? We see how much fast food has contributed to a multitude of diseases and health risks, especially here in the United Kingdom, where literally, there's almost everyone here, or there's in fact quite a large significant amount of people here who are obese, right? And these, all these people who are obese are not just adults, they're in fact children as well, because 1 in 3 primary kids, when they leave school, they're obese, right? So obesity is in fact a big problem. Fast fashion and the pollution that is caused by fast fashion, and in terms of the ethics behind it, worker rights, labor laws behind fast fashion, that in itself has just gone to show how terrible fast fashion and fast food is, and how much of a huge detrimental impact it's in fact creating on the environment, right? So however, even though our world has been very fast paced, even though we've been working in a very fast paced environment, the past year of lockdown, we have actually been forced to stay still, right? We've been forced to slow down and really reconsider some of the things we're doing. So this hamster wheel has in fact stopped, and for some of us without young children to keep entertained, this has provided a unique moment for quiet contemplation, right? Which is not something that a lot of us had before the pandemic happened, right? Because not a lot of us had free time. However, with the pandemic and how all the dynamics regarding work environments, regarding working has in fact changed, we have actually found ourselves with a lot more freedom, with a lot more free time, right? With a lot more time to in fact have quiet contemplation about the things that we do. So that is in fact, absolutely amazing, because I'm not even complaining about the fact that I have more free time, and of course, I don't have kids. I'm still so young. But having said that, the fact that this whole hamster wheel of a world has stopped, and we're finally having some time to ourselves to sit and think about what you want to do, that's actually something that I'm not complaining about, because it really does feel good to like sit down and take a deep breath. I just take a deep breath right now. You just have to let go of all your worries. Let yourself actually feel how much better and how much more peaceful it is right now, with the pandemic bringing everything to a standstill, right? Now we have also suddenly found ourselves with time to spare, time to tackle those half finished projects and abandoned hobbies, and an increasing desire to be creative and make things with our hands, right? And that's because we haven't really used our hands that the way that we're using them right now to do arts and crafts before the pandemic, right? Because we were so busy doing other things. We were so busy typing emails and writing letters and writing memos and whatnot, to actually spend time doing something creative like painting, or even crocheting, or basically these things that you would do if you actually had time, things that our grandmothers or mothers used to do, right? Which we don't really have time for anymore, which a lot of us don't really know about as well. And it's quite sad, because things like crocheting, things like sewing are in fact, it's interesting, it's fun. I've always wanted to learn to sew. I just really needed to find the time to really sew, right? So because in my perspective, the reason I love sewing is I always think, every time you have to go out and buy um clothes are really expensive, right? And also there's a lot of wastage in terms of the clothes that you wear, in terms of the clothes that you buy. So the best way for you to make sure that you don't waste a lot, the best way for you to make sure that you actually that you contribute to sustainable fashion, is actually by buying your own clothes, right? Or rather sewing your own clothes, because when you sew your own clothes, even the stuff that is wasted, you can do other things with it. For example, what I would do is, from the leftover clothes, I would actually make scrunchies, which is something that we all love. And scrunchies are so nice to wear on your hair, because it doesn't pull your hair and hurt your hair the same way normal hairbands do. And obviously it's amazing, right? So in terms of sustainable fashion as well, I would love to learn sewing, because I can be sustainable about the choices that I make. right? So like I said, because all of us have had a lot of time to spare, we've actually had time to tackle those half finished projects that we had, right? And there has in fact been a wealth of online craft shops, craft workshops in fact popping up on everything from crochet to collage to charcoal drawing and even flower arranging to spoon carving, right? And on TV, programs such as Grayson's Art Club have even encouraged everyone to paint, to either draw or sculpt their view from a window with whatever materials they have at hand, right? And in the safety of our own homes, we've in fact been able to try knitting for the first time, or to have a go at oil pastels, or even attempt a pinch pot, right? And the fact of the matter is, without a teacher, it's hard, but also without a teacher, there's no judgment, right? Especially, when you're starting out and you're learning from someone, and obviously there's a lot of judgment that comes from that as well. And if you're someone like me, I get very insecure when people look at the things I paint, or when they look at the things I sculpt. I get very, very insecure, and I know that's ironic, but that's the truth of it, right? And sometimes I get insecure, and I find it very. I mean, I get very uncomfortable when people say stuff about the things I do, and it's very uncomfortable. So if you're someone like me, then the lockdown has definitely helped you, because it's helped you to do all of these things without the judgment of a teacher. And the possibility of experimentation in the solitary environment of our own homes has also spawned this new confidence of having a go, right? With this prerequisite for learning mastery. After all, it starts with dabbling, and the freedom to create our own has offered an effective therapy for these uncertain times, because it can actually be so satisfying to fix broken belongings, stitch by stitch. Yeah, you finally tackle long forgotten projects like a beloved broken cushion, or even a favorite suit jacket, or even an irreplaceable pair of jeans, right? Because it's that's just how we are. It's some of these clothes that we have, we're very attached to them, and obviously we don't want to let go of it, right? And repairing an item of clothing can actually enhance the experience of wearing it, and it leaves the repairer with a renewed sense of closeness and ownership. But it's in fact more than that, right? Because when we repair something by hand, our motor skills are in fact honed, and our head is also fully engaged, where after you're done with this project, you're finally leaving with a sense of calm and balance, right? Which is something that all of us really want, a sense of calm and balance, right? Now, make sure you stay tuned, because we still have a lot more left to talk about, mending your clothes and doing yourself some good. But right now, we're going to head into a small break. Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and you're tuned into the final hour of the sunrise, okay? But don't worry because I'm still here to keep you company and share a lot of information with you, a lot of information that will help you feel better as well. So make sure you stay tuned, all right? And before we actually head back into the conversation, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. So share your thoughts with me. All you need to do is, in fact, just text me on 078 so you can join the conversation live, okay? Don't forget to do that. And also, don't forget to go follow us on our socials, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, right? Go follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and even like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to download our app either, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, because that way you can actually make sure you're tuned in and you're always informed and updated about everything that happens. So make sure you do that. But obviously, before I get back into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that please do join the conversation. Please do, share your thoughts with me, share your opinions with me, because I would love to hear whatever it is that you have to say. Okay. But let's head back into the conversation right now. Now, a recent study that was done at the Harvard Medical School actually discovered that repetitive hand based actions, such as stitching or weaving or even knitting, all create a measurable state of relaxation, right? Basically, basically what happens is it slows down your heart, like it really slows down your heart, and it lowers your blood pressure as well, right? And especially, like I said, because we live in such a fast-paced environment, we're constantly stressed out, right? We do have an increased heart rate, and our blood pressure is high because we're thinking of so many different things, and because we're so stressed out, because we have these deadlines we have to meet, it's very very hard for us to actually focus on focus on slowing our blood or rather slowing our heart and lowering our blood pressure, right? So because of that, it's important for you to engage in activities such as stitching or weaving or knitting. Right now, here is the evidence that repairing something by hand cannot actually be rushed. It is inherently a slow process that requires concentration and care. So I think this is the most important and the most beautiful thing, if I'm not mistaken, about sewing or about knitting. Because what happens is you're basically putting in a lot of care, you're putting in a lot of confidence, or not necessarily confidence, but you're putting in a lot of concentration rather, right? You're putting in a lot of concentration, you're focusing on it because you want to make sure that you really really take care of this product, and you're concentrating on making sure that the product is much much better, right? So obviously that's what it is. And in terms of in terms of how much of effort and how much of time and energy that you spend sewing or knitting or stitching, it actually helps because it's a slow process and it requires a lot of concentration and care, right? Now in the past, much more emphasis was actually placed both in schools and at home on basic skills to ensure self-reliance and resilience, right? Before mass production and ready-made products, we actually had no choice but to repair and maintain the things that we owned, right? And that was just the truth of it, because clothes back then weren't as available and accessible as it is right now. You couldn't just go on the internet and type, Shane, and order all of these beautiful clothes that they have, even though, like it's fast fashion, right? So obviously, it wasn't as easily accessible as it is right now. So before mass production and all of these ready-made products, they actually had no choice but to repair and maintain the things that they owned. Right now, sailors and soldiers were in fact equipped with sewing kits to darn their socks and broken sails. And in the Second World War, the make, do, and mend movement actually implored families to help with the war effort by keeping new purchases to a minimum. Right, which were things like clothes, and obviously food as well was rationed. So they were asked, or they were expected, or they were implored to basically make sure that if they were buying new things, to keep it to a minimum, right? And there was this general consensus at that point of time to be mindful about the things that they own, the things that we use, right, to care and to repair, right? Which really doesn't exist in this day and age. That whole need to sort of care about things, or make sure you take care of them, is something that definitely isn't there right now. And I think the best example I can give you of this is me and my brother, right? I am very very careful about the things I use, because I don't know, I think like even as a child I was very very careful. I was never reckless child that made rash decisions and impulsive decisions. I would always think about what I'm doing, and I always take care of my stuff. And my sister's like that too as well, right? She always takes care of her stuff, and she makes sure that she takes care of it. And if something happens to it, she repairs it, she mends it. Because sometimes when my clothes tear, sometimes these seams come off, I tend to repair them myself. I mend them, and I make sure that I take care of it because I value the things I have. And obviously, I'm not rich enough to keep buying clothes every day or every new week. I don't have that much money to buy new clothes every week, right? So I have constantly had to be very careful about the things I've used because it was imperative that I use them carefully because I had to make sure that my siblings could use it as well. And then you'd have my brother who's like really reckless, right? And he's not someone who takes care of his things that well, and he constantly breaks stuff and constantly buys new stuff. And if you actually think about it, he doesn't take care of his things the same way my sister and I do, right? And the thing is, in instances like that, people nowadays are in fact more inclined to actually not take care of these things, as opposed to people back then who are in fact very concerned about making sure that the things that they used were that the things that they used could be mended and they were taken care of, right? Now when things break, we often don't know how to repair them. And more than that, we don't see the need to repair them either, right? Because why should we? Because everything is made so cheaply, and it's so easily replaced, and it's so easily accessible, so we don't really see the need of repairing any of it when it breaks, right? Now, the byproduct of this is that many of us have been left with a feeling of alienation and disconnection, right? And one thing that Karl Marx actually believed was that in order to feel fulfilled from work, our work actually must be meaningful, honest, effective, and robust, right? And it's the same with other things as well. When we swap our well made and uniquely crafted belongings with replaceable factory made products, our connection to these things actually diminish, and our lives are somehow impoverished in that exchange. So that's basically what happens because we constantly switch things around, right? And what happens when we switch things around is that we tend to lose the sense of its importance, or we tend to lose its value, right? And because to begin with, we never understood the value of that product, right? Because it's so easily replaceable. You can basically make sure that you get it uh, as soon as it breaks, because it's so cheap, it's easily accessible, and it's very, very replaceable. So we don't take care of our things the same way that we used to. And in an instance like that, in a situation like that, it's very, very important for you to make sure that you take care of your things, you take care of the things that you have. And because we're constantly switching things around, we're constantly replacing the things that we have, it's very, very hard for us to have a real connection with it, and we tend to feel alienated and disconnected from the things that we wear and the things that we use, because we don't really understand the meaning of it, right? I mean, look, if you order some nice clothes from Shane, you wouldn't obviously be thinking about all these poor women out there who had to put in so much of effort, who had to sacrifice so much just to produce those clothes for you. Obviously you won't be thinking about that, right? But the truth is, for a lot of people, that's really not the case. For a lot of people, they actually haven't had that freedom, and they actually haven't been able to not think about it when they're buying it, right? Which is what is happening with us, right? Which is the opposite of what's happening with us. We have so much of money, we have so much of privilege, that we can afford to buy things when it breaks. We can afford to replace those things instead of having to mend it and use it throughout the years. That when things break and whatnot, we don't really see the point in repairing it or mending it, right? Because it's very easy for you to just go to the shop and buy something else. It's very easy for you to just go to the shop and you know tell yourself, look, I have enough money to afford this, so why do I need to uh actually, why do I need to make sure that I uh, basically, why do I need to even mend it? Why do I need to repair it and whatnot? Because it's so easily accessible, so I don't need to repair it, I don't need to mend it, I can just go to the shop and buy it because I have enough money to do that, right? So like I said, because we live in a world like that, because we have enough money, because we have enough resources to actually mend the things that we have, we actually have enough resources to replace the things that we have. It's very, very easy for us to do this, right? And that's just the truth of it. That's just how society works right now. We live in such a fast-paced environment. We can easily afford, or rather we can easily afford to buy the things that we break, and we can afford to pay for it too, because it's not that expensive, and things are much, much cheaper than it was back then. So that's the truth of it, and that's why we don't really take care of the things that we have. That's why we don't take care of the products that we use as well. And that's just what it is. So if you have any thoughts that you want to share with me, make sure to text me on 07852473473 to share your thoughts, to share your opinions, because I want to know what you're thinking. Okay, I want to know what you feel, and I want to know what you feel when you repair your clothes. Have you ever repaired your clothes? How often do you do that? And if your clothes tear, do you repair it, or do you just replace it? Do let me know, because this is an important conversation we're having. It's about making sure that we mend our clothes, we take care of our clothes, and it's about making sure that we take the most optimum use out of the things that we have, instead of contributing to pollution, instead of contributing to greenhouse gas emission and whatnot in the environment, because that is also a big, big problem that we are facing at the moment. Okay, so make sure to do that. Don't forget to do that. Text me on the number. You can even call me, and I would absolutely love to hear from you as well. And if you really like the content that we're talking about right now, make sure to go follow us on our socials as well, which is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And don't forget to do that. So, to get back into our conversation, which is about mending our clothes and doing ourselves some good, it's this idea that drew me to this to the art of repair as a philosophy, right? Because I will get into the whole philosophical side of it later, but it's also a very, very helpful skill, right? Because it actually struck me very early on that mending things yourself can in fact instill a confidence in your own capabilities, which in turn in fact increases our connection to the things that we own. Because when you're sewing something, when you're mending something, you yourself are sort of telling yourself, look, I'm capable of mending this, I am capable of fixing this. So why is it that I'm not mending it, right? And that in fact encourages you to keep mending it, right? Now make sure you stay tuned, because right now we're going to head into a small break, and after that we will be back to keep talking about why you need to mend your clothes and do yourself some good.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education, or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time, and we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're
Yeah.
always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow.
Correct.
so,
Absolutely.
that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million pounds, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country. To be fair, different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Welcome back to the show. It's your girl Sarah right here on Relax Radio, and it's in fact the final few minutes of the show. But don't worry, because I still have a little bit more left to tell you about why you should mend your clothes and why it's important for you to actually mend your clothes as well. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned because I still have a lot to be sharing with you. And before we actually head back into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just text me on 072 485 473 473, and you can actually be a part of this show. Okay, so don't forget to actually text me on 078 473 right? And also, before we actually head back into the conversation, I want to very quickly remind you that you can in fact be a part of the show. All you need to do is just go follow us on our socials, but also don't forget to download our app, which is available on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. That way you can actually make sure you join into the conversation from anywhere in the world at any time of the day, right? And if you're interested in our socials, then well, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or rather Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and like us on Facebook, and even subscribe to us on YouTube. Okay, so make sure you do that. So getting back into our conversation, like I said, it's a fact that the art of repairing in fact is a helpful skill that actually drew me to it, right? And also the fact that it struck me that when you actually repair your things, when you repair your clothes or whatever it is, it actually instills this certain sense of confidence in your own capabilities, which in turn, in fact, increases our connection to the things that we own. So I am someone who's always been interested in the sentimental value that we hold for things, right? How we carry memories of people and times gone by within a hand-me-down jumper or even a knitted hat or a hand-knitted hat, right? Because those things actually have a lot of significant sentimental value, right? For example, if it's a hand knitted hat, it could be something that your grandmother made for you, right? Something that she made for you to use and for you to keep, and then obviously that eventually passed down, and it was something that really something that was very sentimental to you and your family because it helped both you and your family. It was some sort of memory that you had of your grandmother. It could be something like that or something different, but some of the things that we use obviously do have a lot of sentimental value, right? And I'm not just talking about clothes, right? Sometimes, if it was a necklace that, your grandmother had and she gave it to your mother and now your mother is giving it to you, if it's something that has been passed down for generations like that, obviously things like that have a lot of sentimental value. And these items are in fact both priceless and irreplaceable, no matter how broken or tattered. And there's a lesson within the broken fibers that we're stitching back together that we might actually apply to our own lives. Okay. Now, this is actually one of the most interesting and fascinating things that I have to tell you as well. In the Western world, we're actively encouraged to fight the process of aging, right? Because we value youth above all else, right? And we always want new things as well. So youth and new things are valued above all else, right? So especially if you look at the beauty industry, you have so many creams, you have so many serums, you have so many, different even vitamins that are apparently supposed to be anti-aging, right? Which why is it that why is it that we're so against, aging? Why do we always consider this as something ugly, and this isn't the first time, and obviously this sort of mindset has been there for a really long time as well. This whole reason as to why, why it's considered ugly, or it's considered, unattractive, and we are actively sort of encouraged to fight that process, right? Which is why anti-aging creams exist, which is why anti-aging serums exist and whatnot, right? And this unyielding, or this in because of that, because this whole unattractiveness that is in fact related to how exactly we see the process of aging. This worldview in fact contributes to wasteful purchases, which then contributes to the environmental emergency that we all face, right? Because all of us have this whole sense of, because we all have this, we have this whole issue of not really finding aging unattractive, or we don't find it attractive. And because we don't want ourselves to be seen as someone who's old and whatnot, we purchase these creams, we purchase these clothes and whatnot that will help us, feel younger or look younger. And because of that, we actively contribute to making these wasteful purchases that in fact contributes to this huge environmental crisis that we have right now. So, like I said, fast fashion is in fact a major player in ecological destruction and pollution. And we're in fact told that aging is in fact bad and unattractive, and that we ourselves must avoid it at all costs, right? And the problem is that, like our clothes, we too will age, right? Because with time, our bones become brittle, our skin carries scars. Sometimes they're from accidents, or sometimes, the stitches that you get from accidents along the way, and different things, right? So, like I said, our bones become brittle, our skin carries scars, and our hair also becomes thin and gray. And after a while, obviously, our joints begin to seize. So we all break from time to time. But what's important is, even though we break from time to time, we also mend, right? With the help of a doctor, or with the help of, whoever it is that you go for help. Most of the time it's a doctor. When you go to them for help, you also mend that brokenness that you have, right? And I'm not saying humans are inherently broken, because no one is inherently broken like that, right? Sure, you might have gone through some trauma when you were a child, but that doesn't mean you're broken. You're in fact a full, complete individual that is just struggling with some insecurities, that is struggling with some problems, right? It doesn't mean you're broken. And right, so in essence, right, when it comes to human, when it comes to being human, when it comes to aging, we all break, right? Our bones break. So in instances like that, we go near a doctor and we ask for help, and over time we also mend. With the help of time and of a doctor, we mend. We carry the knocks of life on our bodies like an old, much loved and patched up pair of trousers, right? We still, go ahead with our lives. We still, we still mend and we still grow, right? Despite aging and everything, we still mend. So if that's the case for ourselves, then why don't we do the same for the things that we use, for the things that we care about? Now, wrinkles are in fact a sign of time, of weather, and of life, of the struggles we've gone through, of everything we've been through. That's what your wrinkles and old age mean. And old age is in fact inescapable. But if we're honest about it, then there can be grace and beauty in it. If you actually say, look, when it comes to old age, some things are normal, some things happen. We just have to start normalizing it, instead of, normalizing anti-aging creams and anti-aging serums and anti-aging vitamins, right? So, old age is in fact real, it's inescapable, but there is grace and beauty to it if we actually accept it. And surely we can see that this must be so, because when we try to deny it by avoiding all things that are worn, rather than learning to love them, we somehow in fact deny our own reality as well. So, to repair something or anything is in fact a defiant act, right? Because you're flying in the face of consumerist values and products, and you're slowing down, and you're finding value and meaning in these smaller things in life that can contribute to a more thoughtful approach to our clothes and the world that we live in, right? So you're in fact being very rebellious, because you're saying no to all of these consumerist values that exist, and these products that are consumerist as well, because you're slowing down from that fast-paced environment you live in. You're slowing down from the fast-paced world that you live in, and you're telling yourself, look, you know what, it's okay. It's okay for you to mend the things that you like. It's okay to mend the things that you love, instead of just throwing throwing it away and replacing it, because you yourself is agreeing that those things actually have a significant value to you as a human being. Those things actually have some form of value to you as a human being, and that's why, that's why you are, that's why you're repairing it, that's why you're mending it, and you are also rebelling against these consumerist values, because you're saying, look, I'm not going to fall into this whole trend of fast fashion. I'm not going to just replace things that mean a lot to me, that are sentimental to me, the moment it tears or the moment it breaks. I'm going to fix it. And even in Japan, there's actually this beautiful art, which I cannot recall the name of, but basically, if you have bowls and it cracks, what you do is you repair those cracks with gold, and it looks so much better when you repair it with gold, right? And that's just the truth. The moment you repair something, the moment you mend something and wear it, it definitely has much, much more value than something that, than something that you just bought and that you're just using for the sake of using, right? So that's just the truth of it. That is the beauty of it. But it's time for me to actually head out of here, and keep you entertained with much, much more conversation with it, with all of the other radio presenters that are coming in. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because we still have a lot of interesting conversation that we have for you here at Relax Radio. So make sure you do that. But unfortunately, it's time for me to actually head out of here. And before I head out of here, I want to very quickly tell you that I hope you have the bestest of day today. And also, I hope you have a great weekend and you finally get that rest that you really, really wanted to get. Okay. So, really hope you do that. And I hope you have a great weekend and a great day.